Automate the mundane, humanize the experience, the topic of today. But what exactly is that? It's about how do we utilize AI to remove the mundane from our day-to-day job, to give us more time to speak with our stakeholders, more time to speak with our candidates, and bring more value to our careers and to the companies. Here is a little bit what you've got coming up in this episode.
I always said automate the mundane to humanize the experience. What I found is things that what takes a recruiter a long time, scheduling, note-taking, feedback, summarizing. I think right now, where the key wins are for recruiters is actually buying back time to then talk to your stakeholders, talk to your candidates. You can then use it to summarize meeting notes. You can then take it to match it against your job description and say, here's a JD, here's the meeting notes for the intake call. Can we now look at building a engaging job advert based on the requirements of the role and that of the hiring manager? You can use it to bring market data, intelligence, benchmarking to meetings. So you kind of bring to your pre-read and your briefing meeting tangible data that took you minutes to get, rather than scraping through LinkedIn Insights and scraping through Glassdoor. It's all there at your fingertips. And again, that as a recruiter, as you probably know yourself, gains credibility and builds trust.
Dominic is somebody that I've loved his content for such a long time. So getting him on the podcast was an absolute dream. Genuinely a really down-to-earth, nice guy, but someone who's actually adopting AI correctly. I know there's no necessarily right or wrong way. I say correctly in the sense he's doing it. There's so many of us who want to, but aren't actually doing it. If you sit in that boat, or if you're sitting there thinking, okay, we're just trialing it, listen to this episode. From start to finish, you're going to get loads and loads of information about where you can use AI. Some of the examples are for free. Some of the examples, it's going to cost you business. But the idea is that there's so many elements that we can utilize AI in the talent acquisition field that Dom is just going to race through them. So genuinely, get your notepad, get your pen, get your note taker, and enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. I'm your host, Eden, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be joined by one of the industry's most recognizable faces. As a guest speaker and panelist for LinkedIn Talent Connect, Breakfast, HR Grapevine, and well over 100 other online events, he gets himself out there, but for good reason. You cannot be in the top 0.1% of LinkedIn content creators for job searching and career advice by not sharing what you know. His recruiting experience has seen him work for the likes of HSBC, Klarna, Ericsson, and now with the Bauer Media Group. And within that, he's seen it all from genuine EVP creation and communication to niche workshop creation through to process improvement. And this is where we're going to dive a little bit deeper in today's topic. Process creation improvements, but utilizing AI to do that. So when you're ready, grab your favorite tea or coffee if you prefer, and join me in welcoming today's guest, talent acquisition lead at Bauer Media, Dominic Joyce. So thanks so much for joining, man.
Eden, thank you for having me, man. I am pumped to be here. Long
I
time
appreciate it.
listener, first time guest on it. Thank you.
Hopefully a good episode to go for. It's the thing I think a lot of people is interested in. AI. Everyone's talking about it. Not just now, but always. It seems to be every conversation I have. But this is more about practicality, not just let's hypothesize. Let's but more about how we actually use it, where it can be applied, and how you've done that. I'm really peeling back. Hopefully, what people want to hear instead of just theory, put it into practice. So I'm genuinely super excited. I get front row seat to this, and I'm sure the things you share me are going to go straight into some messages to some of the people that I know anyway straight away. So thank you genuinely. Before we start getting into the whole topic of AI, I do like to start everyone off with the same question. So from your perspective, Dominic, what do you feel makes a high performing recruitment team today?
I think it's still having that human element to it because there's a lot of conversations on how do we automate, how do we get rid of processes or steps in the process. But I think a good recruitment team are visible online, they're visible to their candidates, to their stakeholders. They're, I call them people scientists because that's what we are, right? With their as dot connectors, the conduits, we're the facilitators. We're the bridge between the outside world and then the inside world of where we work. That's what we do. So a good talent team help bridge that gap and help bring the outside world closer to stakeholders and to hire managers, but also as well as brand ambassadors. So that's to me what a high performing TA team is. Ticks all the boxes in terms of DE&I and takes care of all the necessary steps to make sure it's a fair process, but also as well champions the brand, the roles, and I guess bucks the trend of if you go onto Google and type in recruiters are, there's
Ah,
some less than favorable prompts. So we want to be the 1%, right? That actually, when they come for the process, we create what we call boomerang candidates for those that don't get the offer at the time, but still want to come back and work for the brand based on the experience from recruiters and the
mm.
business. That's what we care about.
I think that's a really good outlook on really what because we do find people, but brand ambassadors, I think, is a real key element. And I don't think it matters if you're internal or the external side of things. Everyone is there to support the company and whatever the goal is. I really like that kind of look on it. So then bring it into the topic of AI, right? So I've spoken about this a few times. We've seen the side of it where when it first started to become a bit more accessible. We spoke about it, about what the applications could be, the good side of it, and then someone wanted to talk about maybe the not so good. We've spoken to other people about their own journey, but from your perspective, because I know you've started the process of implementing it, where
Mhm.
do you feel AI can actually be utilized effectively in the talent acquisition space?
So my tagline that I've coined and may try and copyright it. I'm just joking, I won't, but I'll put it on bumper stickers and t-shirts and caps. But I always said automate the mundane to humanise the experience. So what I found is things that what takes a recruiter a long time: scheduling, note taking, feedback, summarising. There's again all this echo chamber misinformation that suddenly now ATS is the new ATS robot that will start sifting out CVs. Well, in the future, potentially, it's the option to, but I think right now, where the key wins are for recruiters is actually buying back time to then talk to your stakeholders, talk to your candidates. So what I've done recently is used AI to summarize meeting notes. So those of you that use Microsoft Teams, transcribe the meeting. You can then run that through your Copilot. That summarized the meeting seconds that you just had. No more note taking, no more losing eye contact. You're there in the moment. I'm the worst person for taking notes because I'll sit there and I'll doodle, I'll draw hearts, flowers, hieroglyphics. Nothing there actually makes sense to look down at it. It's just chicken scratch. So now I can be present in the conversation, keep eye contact, build that rapport,
Mhm.
let AI take all my notes for me. And look, transcribe on Teams is free. The company's worried about the cost of using AI. There's not always a cost attached to it, right? So that's one element to going down that sort of track there. You can then use it to summarize meeting notes. You can then take it to match it against your job description and say, here's a JD, here's the meeting notes from the intake call. Can we now look at building a engaging job advert based on the requirements of the role and that of the hiring manager? You can use that there as well. You can use it to bring market data, intelligence, benchmarking to meetings. So again, what we've done where I am now is get job descriptions, then look at basically building out what we call a pre-read to say, right, you're hiring for this role. Based on the current market, we're hiring a remote role in the UK. Competitors are paying X, Y, Z for this role. Here's what basically the most open roles are in the UK. Based on LinkedIn, there's currently 400 people with that job title. So you kind of bring to your pre-read and your briefing meeting tangible data that took you minutes to get, rather than scraping through LinkedIn Insights and scraping through Glassdoor. It's all there at your fingertips. And again, that as a recruiter, as you probably know yourself, gains credibility and builds trust.
So that, I was going to say, leaning on from that part. So we'll go into a few more examples of how we can bring this from, I guess, more from the basic side, which is what that is, to more of the complex. But why
Mhm.
is it even important, I guess, as we now, so we're recording this, so mid 25, we'll go live in a couple of months, so Q3 25, right? why is it important at this moment in time for us to really, as recruiters, to take note? If we're not using AI, we should probably start that process. Why is it actually important for our own careers and ultimately the stakeholders and the businesses that we're actually supporting as well?
So I guess two reasons really, right? I've always said that AI won't take your job, but a recruiter that can use AI will,
Mm-hmm.
because you're all seeing the market right now. When things get tough, recruiters are the first role to generally go in a business, right? So as a recruiter, how can you then build up your business case to be an SME of AI and then stay there when they start making cuts? You're also looking at as well in terms of how do we then become future proof, and how do we then basically showcase that actually the value is there in TA by using and being one of the first to use AI as a business to ease of use, to how we go to market, how we communicate as well. They've obviously got general terms of AI as well, but as another option as well that you've got. So what we're kind of looking for as a advice now is by learning this now and embedding it now, becoming SMEs, you're prepared for the future when people are starting to adopt it. There's still a lot of ambiguity around what it is and what it does. My advice is the recruiters now start using it, start learning about it to become that advocate. Yes, because let's face it, everyone wants AI. Very few people know what AI does. But it's like, it's like the internet when it first came out. Everyone wants it. No one knows what it does and what the capabilities are, right? So for me, it's about not being scared of it, but basically embracing it, but also as well then deciding how you use it, the benefit that it's going to bring to you as well. Like anything, like if you want to use something and adopt something, you have to present data, stats, rationale as to why you want to use it by then saying stakeholders, here's a typical process now about AI being involved. Here's a process now adopting AI. Here's what you get from both ends of it, and here's actually the time saved, but also the improvement because of it. So within AI, it's kind of that adoption where we need to make sure we're conscious of the how and the why we use it, and also discussing the ROI on it or the impacts, because it will save time, no doubt. But that then save costs, probably. But equally as well, TA has always been a function that's always been there to kind of save costs, right? We're always the ones to go when times get hard, but you can run a lean team of people that are all AI experts that know how to leverage it. That's a pretty powerful function to basically have there in your business.
I also feel on that element of cost saving on a typical AI tool or a specific AI tool, and it's just my own thoughts. I feel that it might lead sometimes into what marketing ROI looks like. It's very difficult sometimes in marketing to say that piece of content led to that specific return on investment or pound or euro, whatever, right? And I feel like the whole element of AI into an acquisition, we might yield that as well, where you embed that particular transcribe tool. We can't really quantify the exact pounds that it's going to save, but we know it's going to save time, and time ultimately will save the money and vice versa, so on and so forth. So I feel like sometimes we also need to kind of maybe change the data points that we're looking at around it to say, how are we driving impact into the company because of AI? Not we're saving this amount of money in this by doing this, but I feel like we need to kind of change the narrative around it to get stakeholders involved with it a bit more. That's just my own
Yeah.
perception.
I think quality of hire can be measured too as well, because you know as well as I do that if you go to a meeting and take the right notes about the right candidate, you'll build a best job advert. If you then use AI to build a candidate profile, and then you choose to adopt the option to screen a resume or compare it, or a bunch of 5, 10 CVs against a candidate profile, you're going off obviously the job description, hiring manager requirements to get this utopian candidate. And more often than not, you're going to hit the mark there. You're going to find the right person, which then will lead to a longer term hire. So you can measure on quality of hire.
Mhm.
9 months down the line, is that person still in the role? Would you rehire them again if you had the choice? And also again, cost per hire. You can look at all those elements there as well. Cost per hire is still a metric that I was going to talk last year at a LinkedIn Recfest on cost per hire. And if 10 people was like, raise your hand, who does cost per hire trackers here? 5, 10 people. So you use it for that there as well. It's still yeah, I had to build a travel X from scratch. So I think, the ROI is hard to say you'll save this sort of money there, but I think AI will be utilized not to very cut costs, but actually to improve the process. It's more
Mhm.
around improvement. So you're going to get a much more detailed summary brief. You're going to get much more detailed candidate notes. It will lead to a better summary of who you're dealing with, the candidate, but also the stakeholders there. It's a lot more, let's face it, you obviously work in agency, right? It's always a case of like, people go missing or the communications after the call isn't there. How is it to then do a call with a manager, go to the transcription, summarize it and say, appreciate your time today. Here's our notes. Here's what my next steps are. Here's what your next steps are. And
Yeah.
that took minutes. And let's face it, we all hate them to go away and go, what should we discuss? What is my next steps? What are your next steps? And of course, you then
And
think,
nothing
right,
gets done for a couple of days. You're like, oh, we've missed
yeah.
something here.
Or in your eyes, you're like, right, I have to go find the candidates now. That's my first point of call. So I've now got this role. Let's go find candidates. But you always want to make sure, of course, that comms piece there. You can set up obviously things around like weekly updates via AI to again build templates, build into questions. I mean, AI helps you almost be a co-pilot or a sidekick, right? You're still Batman. It's Robin. That's how I kind of see it in a way of you can look at CVs and use AI and say, right, here, and again, it's all boils down to, which we'll probably talk about later, but again, be mindful of your cyber data protocols too, obviously, when using it, because some companies have built their internal GPTs now, which of course is fine. You need to make sure, of course, that on your website and your equipment that you put on there, we will be using AI in our process. You have to be transparent with people. So that's where a lot of companies need to make sure they cover those parameters because it's treat candidates fairly, but also let them know how they're going to be treated in terms of what we're doing with their data. But if obviously you
It's
are
interesting.
compliant,
I don't think a single one of the teams that I hire for has that on their website, or that I've at least
it's
seen it.
definitely got to be mindful, right? Because it's one of those ones where I think, it's counts using AI, right? And no one will tell them not to use AI generally, but I
Mm,
think it's about keeping it a level playing field, right? It's almost like, compare with sports. Everyone could do steroids. That way, there's no cheating. Like, um, this is not me against anyone to go and start doing steroids, right? But in terms of like AI, um, you know, it's good in that sense where you can take a bunch of CVs and go, right, here's 10 CVs. Here's the ideal candidate brief. Rank these CVs 1 to 10. Tell me why number one's number one. Tell me all their skills alignment, but also tell me where the gaps are. Great, there's 10 CVs there. The top five, create me a candidate overview summary of each one, why they're good. Then obviously, from that, build out to me some probing questions as to why there's gaps missing. What should I ask them? This is all done for you via AI. So that's basically all hard roles before, right? And we'll sit there and go, right, this role here, I know the premise of what that sort of technical role is. You're throwing at me all these acronyms, all these new softwares. I don't know what they are. So again, AI helps, I guess, humanize, but also as well put it into jargon that I can translate, and also again for the
see,
candidates too. So yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, you're giving a lot of examples. I'm loving it, by the way, and I'm hoping someone's mad scribing down or they're listening. Maybe there's a co-pilot element to audio. I don't know. Maybe I actually haven't found one like that, but I'm hoping someone's
Mm,
listening and making a lot because these fall under what I'm categorizing as basics, right? These are things
mm,
that we should all really be doing as the basics. And that while you're just saying there, I've just done this. So before we clicked record, I was talking about that role, that IT lead role. It is such a weird role where you could be an IT manager, an IT operations manager, head of IT,
mm,
IT lead. And I'll be honest with you, I do a lot of software, but don't do a lot of internal IT related roles. And then I was literally lost. So I was just having a chat with
mm,
Copilot, going back and forth, going like, this is the spec, like boil it down. What
mm,
type of titles could do this? Where like, and I gave like the real specific. They're a Series B funded company. They're this big, and it came up with all these different titles, and then plugged them into the searches, and lo and behold, a plethora amount of candidates come up, and I'm like, I've never seen these before. So I think I use it, especially I use Copilot a lot more than
mm,
ChatGPT now, just because it's built into my computer, and I use Meta AI on WhatsApp for everything outside of work. I know it sounds ridiculous, like even like just I just get into the hang of it. Like I'm looking for a holiday, put my little one to sleep yesterday, so I was just like prompting
mm,
it, and off the back of it, I've got a list of 4 locations to look at today. And that takes she didn't take too long to go to sleep, it took 10 minutes. So that took 10 minutes of some good prompting and
mm.
some links. But I think getting the hang of just getting good at asking questions. But my fear is this: we're really trying to teach people how to use AI to better themselves as recruiters. cast your memory into 10, well, cast your memory, look forward into 10 years. You and I have been in recruitment for a long time.
Mm.
So we know the basics of recruitment. We know good questioning. We know what good intakes look like. Are people then going to lose that? And they're going to rely too much on the AI side of things. And then we just become, because you want to humanize the experience, but we just then become process recruiters and not humanizing the process. That's a fear I genuinely have with this. So we're just going to train people on how to use AI and not train people on how to do the human side.
It's a fair point. I think what you have there is down to whoever leads the function, right? Whether it's CPO, CEO, and their thoughts on it and how they use it, right? You look at Klarna, let go of all their staff, and now they in terms of like their customer service, it's all now chatbots and AI, isn't it? So, but then you can argue that it's taken away, you know, people's desire to
Soul.
talk to a human. Yeah, it's a
Soul of the
soul.
company.
Yeah, correct. So then what I'd say is we're the one function, right, where you don't want to automate it completely because people want to talk to people. Let's face it, when people's desires to move jobs and move companies, right, are led by emotional reasons, right? And AI doesn't resonate with emotion. People do. So when you're sat there having a conversation there, you as a person to person can get the desires as to why the company is a good choice for them or why the role is. We can read empathy, we can read people's humour, body language. Right now, AI can't do that. It probably can do in years to come, right? But right now, we're using AI, hopefully in years to come, to remove elements that we find cumbersome. So, scheduled interviews, it's how nice is it to kind of then send out a link that's got your diary and my diary all synced to say, hey, Mr. Candidate, there's a meeting going on next week. Here's our diaries. When's it work for you? Rather than me saying, Eden on Teams, hey, mate, how's things? Your diary's not looking that free. Can you make some space for me? Or, I can't see your diary. These are all the little things that actually, when you think about it on the day to day, that take away so much time from us doing our job, having those conversations, talking to stakeholders, to candidates. I don't know about you, mate, but my favorite part of my job is talking to people.
I agree, but I'm going to throw a spanner here
Mm,
because this leads into the process part, right? And by the
mm,
way, we're going to record an episode next week, which is going to fall into the same season, by the way. So that you're setting me up
mm,
now, which is about, are we creating too much process?
mm,
I'll use the example of that interview scheduling. And again, it's not maybe right for right now, but 2 years from now, somebody isn't, they're not aware of the process. So they need to rephrase this. They've come into a process that it's there to, AI are going to talk to each other to schedule the interview, but they don't necessarily aren't speaking as much to that candidate because they're in so much process. So with me
mm,
on this one, I will get there. But not every candidate I don't think every candidate is treated, should be treated exactly the same. I know it
mm,
sounds ridiculous because now bias comes into it. So if you've got a shit hot candidate, is a shit hot candidate that has a limited time on the
mm,
market, that person, you might want to speed them through the process. So I'll say it because I'm an external recruiter, but we all do it.
mm,
Anyone who's listening has done that. And if you haven't, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to me.
mm,
So are we then just saying, hey, here's process and we're going to lose great talent, the time,
mm.
because that recruiter won't speak to the manager, say, hey, you need to free up time because this person will be gone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a valid question. I think the idea is then that if you have more free time because you've automated certain steps in the process, that you pick up the phone. Like, which, yeah, look, it will work for a lot of people. But yeah, I've been there. We have like preferred candidates or ones that we know, are going to be offered the job, or ones that we know are going to get a job because it's just a spidey sense, right? I think you should try and treat everyone fairly. But unfortunately, does that always happen? No. We can all say that's happened in past companies and in recruitment. We've all been part of. I've been part of a process where I wasn't treated fairly. I know I wasn't. So it's a valid
I'm
question.
glad you've
I
agreed
think
with me, by the way, because otherwise I'm going to come across as an absolute
no,
devil.
no, no, no.
So I
You're completely right.
appreciate
No,
that.
you're right. I think it's a case of what can you automate that still will
Yeah.
obviously provide equally as well. After we had to try and get hold of someone on the phone to book in a time and date and they can't take the call, pinging them a link might save time. So I guess it's like a double-edged sword
True.
where you have someone trying to call candidate and they're always on the phone in and out of meetings. hey John, here's a link to our diaries, book us in when you're free. Same goes too for interviewing, right? Sometimes it's nice to have it where rather than doing like an assessment or like a competency-based questionnaire or something numerical with a recruiter face to face, where you have to then try and get the person to be within your diary and their diary,
Mm.
saying, right, here's an AI virtualized assessment platform. You have 72 hours to complete it. You can complete it at 6 a.m., 6 p.m., midnight, doesn't matter when you do it. So there's elements, again, people, like last night, rather, you're booking a holiday. People want speed and they want to talk to a travel agent. They want to talk to a system to give them advice there and then. So I hear what you're saying. I completely resonate and agree with you. I think it's about how can we take certain elements and make it faster and quicker, right? Because that's why, again, stats show links and easy apply. It's the preferred method because it's 2 clicks and you applied. No one wants to go through a careers page and then start. I mentioned Workday because that's the one that everyone seems
I was
to.
going to say you don't want to go onto Workday system and redo your resume on that.
No, and then upload all my career information as well after that. So, um, so as you can see, a candidate. So I think also look at stats there as well, right? The drop-off rate for applications when, of course, it's too many cumbersome steps. So what you don't want to do is just create this whole one-touch apply process because again, it just shows that you can get anyone applied to it that is not suitable. You then got 1,000 CVs in one day. But you want to remove all the cumbersome steps that actually aren't relevant to the process that we think about in years to come. Why do you ever ask for that? And make it easy to apply. What you don't want to do is have them go through 4 or 5 steps till they meet a human, but at least have it where it's humanized in the fact of, right, you've applied. Great screening call, face to face, right?
Mhm.
Allow an AI to take over sort of like scheduling. Also have as well, and I think if you agree here, very few companies then put as part of their like application email saying, hey, thanks for applying. They just say, we'll be in touch. No one puts on there, hey, we use AI in these parts of our process, or here's a typical process of what happened next. Screening call, first stage, it was technical, technical assessment. No one puts that on there. And imagine using AI to go, right, you need to apply to a developer role. Cool. So then, hey, Eden, appreciate you applying to the role here. We'll be in touch on the team. Just to let you know, if you're not progressed, here's the steps. Bang, 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 bang. And again,
Mm.
that's all AI generated there. That gives the candidate a sense of being seen, but also being educated on the process. Because right now, no one does that. Like, I think I applied to Hootsuite years ago, and I loved their like email saying, thanks for applying. We love what you want to work for us. Here's what steps look like in the process. Here's how to find us on socials. So simplistic, and no one does that in
Yeah.
applications. So I think it's not just.
I think it's becoming more and more now. So I've got from memory, I've got two right now that do that as the process unfolds. It's not the first email, but if they get the first interview, at the end of the first interview, they'll say this is the next steps and so on and so forth. But I think at the beginning, it's very valuable because as an external recruiter, one of the questions I get all the time is, what's the process look like? Sometimes before they even go on a call with me, they want to make sure that I understand what they're actually doing. And that, I think it's super valuable. I think, as you're saying there, what I'd love to see actually, and if someone does this, please say, taking what you're saying there, but like a visual aid to it, almost like a I don't want to say put you into a funnel, but like a step program where like as you progress into this stage, it goes green, then the next one goes green, so you can kind of see a progress bar for yourself, and then there's 5 stages. You're already on stage 3. They're nice and green, and it keeps you excited, keeps you motivated, keeps you informed. That I think could be really easy to do with an AI and a template, and then the AI just extracts the name, the stage, and then puts a new progress bar for you. That
Yeah,
would be interesting. Little
but
things like that.
and again, yeah, the capability is there, right? It's who wants to use it and build it and make it. And that's the point, right? Is that candidates hate being in the dark, hate
Yeah.
missing any kind of contact, right? So again, if you could then have it where even just sharing with them, this is again me sort of blue sky thinking, but they always ask as well, how many candidates in process? Am I one of 5 or 10? And you have it where it's again like you could even have it where look, you interviewed on the Monday as an FYI, again, live status bar. Our last interview for this role was on Friday. So in theory, we should be in touch by Tuesday. So again, having those status bars where it feeds into the live calendar of that role, all the candidates that are currently the first second says, hey Ian, you interviewed us on Monday. Great, good stuff. Just to let you know, we have 4 interviews to play, or our last interview is on Friday. Therefore, by Tuesday, we'll be updating you with an outcome. You know where you stand, right? Rather than obviously calling the recruiter. That's potential there for that. So also recruiters, like, they get time to go back and do things like headhunting, right? We love a headhunt. We love to go screen candidates. We love to talk to stakeholders. We love to interview. We love to hear. I'm a storyteller, so I love hearing people's stories. Helps me again be a better storyteller, but also again using AI to then take all the heat off me. I can really sit there and probe and not have to worry about, oh, did I mention that? Did I write it down? And I
Mm,
think I now have much deeper conversations with people knowing that my chats are transcribed. And to be fair, it's worked in different languages, different accents in terms of like people that are from, from Europe, from Africa, from South America, that always have different accents. It's still it transcribes perfectly as well for teams. I think again, that's where AI gets recruiters back to doing what we used to do and have conversations with people. So it's almost like a full circle, right? People are saying, "Oh, because AI, you'll stop talking to people." Well, actually, no. Now I get a chance to talk to people, like I used to enjoy doing when I first started out 12 years ago. Because much of my role that became so cumbersome and so process orientated is now been taken off me, allowing me to kind of be a better version of myself. So again, start to build back the credibility of what a recruiter actually is, and actually we are good people. No more ghosting as well, because again, system wise, you have to give outcomes to candidates. No more leaving someone, application read for 3 months. No more having an interview on the 1st of July and then not getting back to them by 21st of July. All of these can be adopted to make sure, of course, that candidates now have some kind of communication, contact, feedback, or closure, whether it's going to be done by the system or it's actually forcing you as a recruiter to have that conversation. So
I
it's all there.
I 100% agree with this. By the way, we use AI from our side. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know if you've experienced this or anyone else who's listening has. Transcribing, I agree with. I like it. I actually quite like my own notes in the sense I like it. I take it in, so I still
Mm,
note take. I know it sounds counterproductive, but I note take to what I feel is important. But then obviously the transcript gets everything, and then I can kind of compare and combine and so on and so
mm,
forth. But I take it in a lot more when I write it myself. Um, but some people don't want to be transcribed. That one for sure. I have to ask permission before we start recording, and it's always
always,
like
yeah.
no. And I also find some people maybe aren't as honest when they know they're being transcribed. And I also feel like sometimes, especially as an external recruiter, because sometimes they're telling me things in complete confidence about the company, about the projects, not to break any NDAs or
Mm,
anything, but they sometimes don't want their name associated with a phrase or a comment that they might have said.
mm,
So I have noticed, especially in mainland Europe, there's not as they're not as receptive, or it's not as receptive to where to,
mm.
to the markets that I recruit for. Um, Again, I think if it becomes more widely adopted, people need to become more receptive to it. It does potentially lead to we're not getting the full picture in the process when people aren't as open when they know they're being recorded.
Yeah. I think I always go with the stance of, and I always ask for permission before I start
Mhm.
transcribing. And my general words are that I want to enjoy this conversation without losing eye contact and about having to basically look down off my screen and just say the reason why I like doing the transcription is because I get to hear your story and look at you in the face and, get all of your body language, all your smiles, all your afflictions. Helps me then obviously build this character profile of you. So the role of the transcription is to help me then sell you better to my stakeholders because I can then see fully who you are. It's how you, I guess, how you dress it up, right? And just say as well, look, this makes me give better notes to my stakeholders to help promote you better to them. That's kind of the stance of
Cool.
what I take there.
I like
But
that.
and that's it, isn't it? It's about how you sell it. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a case of like, like Miranda writes, anything you say or do, will be
Yeah,
used in
I mean,
evidence against
sometimes I
you.
feel I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
they think it is, and that,
It's
but again,
yeah.
maybe it's how you set it up, and I'm borrowing it, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, let us know. I think I've always said, look, my goal from this call is, and look, the role of recruit's a weird job, right? Because we're having to sell people externally into people internally, right? We're almost like trafficking people into the business, and trying to almost go. You need to, yeah, and we all know as well that our credibility rests on the quality of our shortlists. So we want to make sure we go there. No one's ever going to try and fabricate a candidate to get them to get a job, right? Because we both know that we'll be caught
It's
out. But I
sussed
think
out.
our goal, yeah, we'll just down sell the candidate. I think so. But for us, my goal is to make sure that when I go there, the shortest of 5 people, that I've sat there and given them the best chance to kind of tell their story,
Mm.
knowing full well that they've had a chance to kind of be open to me and tell me everything's going on there. I can summarize that in a really strong candidate overview and say, right, here's their CV. here's their story and the transcript of their actual. Now write me out a summary of the whole interview based on their experience. Because then what you might find is that they'll give you a scenario about when they do a project or save some money, and then they'll go on a CV and go, "Oh, it was that company there," and start to basically put more meat on the bones.
Yeah.
So what you're having there is almost this CV that we all try and make sure is quite minuscule, but it kind of entices this conversation. Then to the conversation, obviously, that's been transcribed, and almost then what you get is this, this juicy steak of a candidate profile that was produced just, like a T-bone. It in essence kind of puts more meat on the bones to then sit there and say, right, here's the five candidates, and so far I sent through each CV with a candidate profile to really kind of sit almost like what you guys do. I do that internally now, and I receive a lot of praise saying, look, it's a really detailed summary. I feel like I know the candidate better now than just beyond the CV saying, this is Eden, he's in this role here. No, it's clear as this. He wants this. He can start in 2 weeks' time. I give them an actual, it's almost like a dating profile. It's more like I've met you and I've tried to really
Yeah.
spec you in there. So I think that's where AI is really, really crucial. But also as well, if you're found too, when you're having to sit there and try and sell the role to people, things like, oh, tell me the team size, tell me, if you can sit there as well as a recruiter, knowing that you've had a really good chat with the manager for half an hour, taking down all the problem spaces, all of the kind of what does good look like in 12 months' time, AI is helping you get the full picture because I'll argue that no one can take as good notes as an AI note taker, right? As
Yeah.
detailed.
I mean, they're taking
And
every note, every word that's being
yeah,
said in the conversation.
exactly.
So
Imagine seeing that as well and then having this summary and then going to a candidate. I've done it too. I've been sent hierarchical, org charts or, the overview for the next 12 months. And again, you don't share that because obviously it's public, it's private stuff, but imagine, using that to kind of build out again this whole pitch to the candidate. So what you're kind of using is you're using AI to create this elevated pitch to the candidate because we are still in a sales environment where I want to make sure that I sell you the role in the company. That's my job,
mhm.
right? I'm the ambassador
Yep.
of the business. And by having those detailed notes about what's going on, the problem spaces, I want to come away and say to me, Dom, I had questions, but you've answered them all for me. And generally believe that I have. Not just them, they haven't prepared a question, right? And equally as well, it's almost like they walk away going, I really want this job because I know all about it. It's a really detailed overview and a good chat over half an hour. And then me saying, I really want to get this job because do you know what? They're a good person. And actually, my notes that I've now got here tell me they really align to it. So almost again, you put the compassion and the empathy back into recruitment, and it's ironic because you've removed obviously steps that are cumbersome as part of what you do, but actually you're present, and it's almost ironic that within technology you become like a zombie because again you use it to, but with screening and conversations, right? Because the AI is doing all the process part for you, you're there, you're present in the moment. So I almost argue that this is why I've loved my job with Bauer right now, is that because I've used the transcription since day one, I've had really good conversation with people. And all the hires that I make, I see around the office there. And I'm just like, you fit this business because
Yeah.
I went out and knew what the business wanted in terms of skill set, personality, the culture fit, or the culture add or blend. And I nailed that because I asked the right questions to get the right answers. I then made sure, of course, that I then probe well enough to get the right candidates. We're matchmakers, aren't we? People scientists. And that is the beauty of it, right? But I now love that I can do that without thinking, oh shit, I have to go back and now type all these notes. And it's removed the anxiety from my role.
I think the note taking part especially is just it's a game changer. It really is. I mean, the amount of times I've sat there and just you get to the end of the week, you got to put people on the system. I mean, from the stone, you put them on the system so you can see them in the future, or you got to write the write ups. And I don't mind writing; I'm okay. But you work with some people who absolutely detest it, and that we're all built different, and I think
Mm.
AI is going to help us do what we do. And I'm glad you used the word sales job because that's still what we are. The comment you made about against the end of an interview and having no questions. It's actually, I saw something. His name's Dan Matthews. He's been on our podcast before. He commented on someone's LinkedIn the other day, and she wrote saying like it's a really bad outlook if you have no questions. And Dan commented saying actually, if I've done my job correctly, they should have no questions. And I was like, hell yeah, that is our job. It
Mm.
kind of then leads. Then they should be sitting and they could ask us really deep probing questions. If someone can ask me a question I don't have the answer to, I'll go find out. But I want
Mhm.
those questions, especially from the external side. I shouldn't be able to answer every question that you put to me. Technical, I can't,
Mhm.
let's be honest, and the nitty gritty culture, but you should be able to run the culture side. That's if we can get to the end of that and we can have a deep, meaningful conversation and then use AI to build up these narratives around us. That's the game changer. Just quick, Dom, is there any specific tools that you would highly recommend based on your usage with them? Just because
Yeah.
I think the tools that I use might be slightly different in some aspects,
Mhm.
but for the internal side of things, what's kind of really stood out to you?
I think it depends on budget, right? It's budget adoption by the business also as well. Being mindful, like we want to trial MetaView where we are, but to get the sign off and it would have taken months to get sign off, right? So we probably will get MetaView as part of a potential long term strategy there. There's other AI note takers like Nuta, they're a French company that are really, really good. Most argue that they're slightly better than MetaView based on their capabilities with languages and other bolt-ons. You've got Otter AI. So probably Nuta, Otter AI, and MetaView are kind of the top three note takers right now up there that I'd say. That's if we have budget to burn, right? If not, then we have Teams, transcription. I'm pretty sure as well things like Zoom, they have an option that, if you use Zoom or Google Meet, there's certain parameters there where you can transcribe as well. I think most sort of video calling tools are set up to transcribe now. So is it more steps still as a human? Yes, because you have to go in there and take the transcript, put it into Copilot, but it's free. And it's free and it's saving you time. But yeah, things like obviously Nuta, MetaView, you can build projects in there, you can upload the profiles, it ranks, you can then ask the questions like, oh, what did so and so say about their salary? Oh, it was here, or so it's a deeper analysis on the person, which is
Mm.
great. And what we want to do long term, right, is we want to deeper analyze the person's approach, their rationale, their thinking, what they've said. But I question now if you have things like transcription and Copilot as standard, why you aren't using them, or at least testing them, or even using them in team meetings. As a TAT meeting, why is no one transcribing this? Why is then no one getting that and saying like, "Hey, everyone, next week, happy time. Here's the keynote takeaways." Because again, we all try and take notes in there, but everyone's there sharing jokes, gifs, memes, bit of humour. You come away going, "What was it discussed again today? What's everyone's jobs? What's the next steps?"
Yeah. Or you get the
Yeah,
actions and you don't do them for like 2 weeks. By the time the next meeting, you're just rushing it in the morning because someone said something. But
yeah.
I really appreciate you being honest about what your thoughts are around this. I think what I was hoping, and hopefully everyone who is listening is agreeing, is just a lot of deep information around where we can actually embed AI into our function. There's so many ways that I still haven't tried, and I imagine you haven't tried either, but there's still so many learns to keep going. But if someone wants to pick this up further with you, they want to get to know who you are, they want to see some of the mental videos you post on LinkedIn, which I can attest to, where is the best place that they can find you?
Just on LinkedIn. My Instagram's way too much of my daughter and my dog for that anyone's liking there. So just stick to LinkedIn. I think my URL's just like linkedin.com Dominic-Joyce. So find me on there. I'm on TikTok, but I don't really use it that much. It's just again for like dog videos and food reviews I use it for. So stick to LinkedIn.
Well, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining, and I do appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Appreciate it.